Eliza lived on the 3rd floor, alone, surrounded by peace lilies, muted walls, and books stacked like quiet witnesses. She was soft-spoken, precise, a woman who never raised her voice, but knew how to close a door. To strangers, she was calm, ordinary, but she carried silence the way others wore perfume. Intentionally, her hair-long black untouched fell to her waist like a shadow that obeyed no one. Not since him. Adrian had once called it her curtain. A veil men wanted to part. He said it like a compliment. It never felt like one. She brushed it every night, slowly, not for beauty, for control. There were no photos of him in her apartment. No notes, no socks, no keepsakes, but the corners still remembered. The mirror still flickered. Some shadows don't need permission to return, and some names don't need to be spoken, to be felt. The doorbell rang at 6:42 p.m. She wasn't expecting anyone. No deliveries, no friends dropping by unannounced. She almost didn't get up, but something made her pause mid-step in the kitchen, spoon still wet in her hand. The rain had started only moments earlier. Not a storm. Not yet. Just that slow drizzle that coated the city in hesitation. She opened the door, and time hiccuped. Adrian stood there. The last time she saw him, he'd said nothing. He'd packed 2 bags and left while she was at work. No call, no fight, no warning, just a single folded note on the kitchen counter.
You'll be better off. Someday you'll thank me.
But now, he was here. Rain clinging to his shoulders, collar half up, hair wet like a memory dragged through the gutter. He hadn't aged much, but something in his posture had changed. Less boyish now. More certain. Like someone who had made peace with who he'd become, even if no one else had. "Eliza," he said, and her name in his mouth felt like a trespass. She didn't respond. His voice was low, careful.
I was in the neighborhood, thought I'd say hello, that's all.
She should have shut the door. She should have laughed. She should have done anything other than what she did, which was nothing. And in the kind of silence only old lovers know, he stepped inside. Just like that, the storm she thought had passed came dripping into her hallway, smelling like wet regret and old charm. It was a reflex more than hospitality, like handing someone a towel after they've broken in through the rain. They sat in the living room, legs crossed in opposite directions, as if the angles could make the room feel safer. Adrian smiled easily, the kind of smile that used to work on her.
You haven't changed much,
he said.
You have,
she answered. A flicker of something passed through his face, but it vanished as quickly as it came. He asked about her job, her routine, her books, but never her joy, never her peace. He was looking for cracks, and she could feel it. When she didn't offer enough, he turned to the familiar.
丢人嘅downtown.
He asked, nodding toward her hair. She froze, just slightly. It was always the hair. Even back then, he used to tell her to tie it up in public. Said men looked too long. Said he didn't like sharing her with the world. It never sounded like jealousy. It sounded like care, until it wasn't. Now, here he was again, sitting in her safe space, swirling wine in a glass, like he owned the rhythm of the room.
You know,
He said, voice light.
there's something about women with long hair. It makes men imagine things, dangerous things.
She didn't reply, but her fingers tightened around the stem of her glass, and that was enough. He smiled again, because silence, to a man like Adrian, wasn't resistance. It was permission. It was getting late, but Adrian didn't seem to notice. He sat comfortably, too comfortably, elbow resting on the arm of her couch like he still remembered its exact shape. He'd always had a way of asking questions that felt like kindness until you tried to answer. Then they'd twist, turn sharp when your words didn't match what he wanted to hear.
You saying anyone?
He asked casually. She sipped her wine, didn't respond. He chuckled, shaking his head like she confirmed something. I didn't think so, he said. Still too picky? Still too free, he meant. She stood to take the glasses back to the kitchen. His eyes followed her, not just her movement, but the sway of her hair as it moved behind her like a banner.
You ever think about cutting it?
He asked. The question landed like a coin dropped down a well.
No.
She said, flat, cold. He smiled at the edge in her voice. He liked it when she pushed back, not because he respected it, but because it gave him something to bend.
I just think it makes a man think too much.
He murmured.
好吧 what's underneath?
She didn't answer, not because she was afraid, not yet, but because something old and familiar was crawling into her spine. A warning, a muscle memory from years ago. She remembered the way he used to say "you're mine" when they fought, how he'd whisper, "No one else will ever want you like this." The wine was warm in her throat, but her hands were cold. Steady, but cold. And he was still smiling, as if he'd never left. As if she were still something he could reshape with enough patience and a pair of sharp hands. 37 a.m. She woke suddenly. No noise. Just that sixth sense, the kind that creeps up the back of your neck like cold fingers. 2:37 a.m. The digital clock blinked red in the dark. She wasn't alone. Not in the spiritual sense. Not in the poetic way. She wasn't alone in her room. Her breath caught in her chest as her eyes adjusted to the dim hallway light spilling into the room. He was standing there, Adrian, in the doorway, silent, still, watching. He wasn't holding his coat anymore, just something small. Metallic, her heart knew before her eyes confirmed. A pair of scissors. Silver, clean, familiar, the same kind they used to keep in the kitchen drawer. She had used them 2 nights ago to cut a tag off a new blouse, and now they were in his hands.
我来着
He said softly, not like a threat. Worse, like an apology, like this was something painful but necessary. She sat up slowly. Every nerve in her body wanted to run, but her legs didn't move. Her arms stayed under the blanket. Adrian stepped forward, just once, just enough for her to see him in full.
I kept thinking about it.
He whispered.
Your hair. The way they must stare at it. The way they imagine you.
She couldn't speak. Her voice had folded in on itself. Her mind was calculating, not,
What do I say?
but
What will keep him calm?
because the man in front of her wasn't asking. He was preparing,
I'm not here to hurt you.
he said, as if that made any of it less terrifying.
I just need to remind you
He lifted the scissors slightly.
who you were with me.
He sat beside her, on the bed. The scissors gleamed beneath the low hallway light. She didn't move, not because she wasn't terrified, but because she understood something instantly, instinctively. Any reaction could be the spark. Any scream could turn his hand violent. Stillness was safer. He reached out, fingers grazing the thick curtain of hair that poured over her shoulder.
You always had the softest hair.
She said.
Like silk. Like something no one else should touch.
He wasn't talking to her. He was talking to a memory. Adrian had stopped seeing her as a person long ago. Now she was just a possession out of place. Something once his now living like it wasn't. His hand gathered a handful of hair right behind her ear. A tender spot. Intimate, vulnerable. Then came the sound. Snip. Not loud, not violent, but final. She flinched, but didn't pull away. Another handful, another cut, then another. Strands fell onto the blanket, onto her lap, onto the floor. Her scalp grew cold, her vision blurred. She wasn't crying. It wasn't sadness. Not yet. It was dissociation. She felt her body from the outside, like watching a girl in a film, sitting still while a man reshapes her into something smaller. He spoke as he worked.
You were so beautiful when you were mine. I hated how they look at you. I'm helping you. You'll see.
The scissors kept cutting, uneven, Some strands longer, some too short. He didn't care about symmetry. This wasn't about appearance. It was about erasure. By the time he stopped, her lap was covered in black, like ashes. He brushed one last lock off her shoulder, kissed her forehead, and said,
Now they won't see you like that again.
Then he stood up and walked out of the room, like a man who just fixed a mistake, not committed one. When Eliza opened her eyes, he was gone. The apartment was silent, but not peaceful. It was a silence of aftermath, of something ugly that happened, and left no witnesses. She sat up slowly. Her neck felt exposed, her shoulders light unnaturally so. The blanket slid off her lap, revealing the mess he'd left behind. Strands, clumps, pieces of herself that used to frame her face, now discarded like trash on wrinkled sheets. For a moment, she just stared, not at the hair, at her own hands. They were open, slack, still trembling, but empty. She rose without thinking, feet bare on the cold floor. Each step to the mirror felt longer than it should have. She looked, not away, straight on, hair jagged, half her scalp unevenly exposed, some patches short and rough, others still long, swinging like ghosts he forgot to erase. She didn't cry, because this wasn't sorrow. Not yet. It was exposure. Raw, indecent. Not just what he took, but how he left it. She touched her head with both hands. Slow, almost reverent. It was ugly, but honest. This was what harm looked like. Not with bruises or blood, but with scissors and silence. She didn't scream, didn't curl into the corner. She just stood there, naked in the face, and whispered to her reflection.
It ends here.
Not with him, not with his apology, not with his shame, but with her. The salon was nearly empty. Just two stylists chatting in soft tones, and the smell of hairspray lingering in the air like routine. Eliza stood in the doorway. No makeup, hood pulled halfway over her head, but not to hide, to contain. The woman behind the counter looked up, smiled politely.
Do you have an appointment?
No.
Eliza said. Her voice was clear, clearer than it had been in days. The woman tilted her head.
Are you okay?
Eliza pulled back her hood. The stylist's smile faltered. Her eyes scanned the damage. The missing pieces, the uneven scalp, the places where scissors had carved chaos into quiet.
I need it all gone.
Eliza said.
Everything.
There was a silence, a kind of hush people only give to grief.
You don't have to do that.
The stylist whispered. Kind, gentle. Eliza met her eyes,
I do.
and that was enough. The clippers buzzed to life. She didn't flinch. The first pass peeled away what was left of him, not in hair, but in permission. Each strip was smoother, shorter, cleaner. This time, the blade was hers. This time, she wasn't frozen. She was present. The stylist moved carefully, as if honoring something sacred. When it was done, Eliza looked in the mirror, scalp clean, face unhidden, no curtain to protect her. And still, she didn't look away, because what she saw wasn't shame. It wasn't loss. It was beginning. On Tuesday, she went back to work. No announcement, no excuse, no story. Eliza simply walked into the library, unlocked the front doors, flipped the closed sign to open, and began shelving the returns. People stared. Of course they did. She caught them in the corners of her vision, pausing mid-sentence, eyes drawn to the smooth dome of her scalp. Some confused, some uncomfortable, some curious. No one asked, not out loud, but Eliza could feel the weight of their questions, like whispers held just behind teeth. Was it illness? A breakdown? An accident? They all wanted a reason, but for the first time in a long time, she didn't feel obligated to give one. She didn't owe them a version of events. they could wrap up in a sentence and file away. She knew who she was now, not because she had hair, but because she had nothing left to hide behind. Later that afternoon, a small girl in the children's section tugged on her mother's sleeve.
Mom,
She whispered.
she looks like a superhero.
Eliza smiled, not out of pride, not out of irony, but because maybe she did. Not the cape kind, the real kind, the kind that survives, the kind that walks straight through a storm and comes out clean, not untouched, but undefeated. She never reported him, not because he didn't deserve punishment, but because Eliza wasn't chasing courtroom victories. She didn't need a verdict to end this. She only needed release. Yes, he took something from her. That much is true. But he didn't destroy her. And that was the sentence he would carry, in silence, for the rest of his life. Because he would always remember her, with that hair, with that gaze, with that softness he would never touch again. He would never know the woman she became, never smell her skin again, never feel the calm that used to live inside her. He would never again call her mine. Eliza didn't rush to grow her hair back, not because she couldn't, but because she no longer needed to, because it was never about beauty. It was always about ownership. And now, what remained was something more dangerous, more honest, herself, unadorned, unapologetic, unforgiving. Some mornings in the stillness, she'd run her palm over her shaved head and feel more woman than she ever did before. Because strength doesn't always roar. Sometimes, it's the sound of scissors in your own hand. Sometimes, it's the quiet way you walk into a room, unbent, unafraid. He once said,
Your hair makes a man look.
so he cut it. But what he never understood, what he never even touched, was this. The danger was never the hair. It was her. Some people survive in silence, not because they are weak, but because their silence echoes louder than any scream. Eliza didn't need revenge. She became the ending. And in the mirror, she no longer saw what was taken. She saw what no one ever could.